Good evening. Tonight we're going to continue on Unit 4, Lesson 30. Represent data on a line plot. Miss Diaz records how far she walks each day for 14 days. So, right now we have displayed our data. This looks very different than what we did last night, because last night I displayed everything in a line plot. Now we don't have that. We have just the data that we would eventually have to be placed on a line plot. But let's just see if we can answer these 4 questions based on this data. How many miles does Miss Diaz walk on day 10? So if we look over at day 10, she, in the chart, she walked 7/8 miles. So we're just going to write 7/8 miles. Next question, how many days does Miss Diaz walk more than 2 1/8 of a mile? So they want to know how much more than 2 1/8. So I have to go greater than 2 1/8. So we have to find how many of that is. So we've got 1 here. We got 2 5/8. That's 1. We got 2 3/8. That's 2. 2 7/8. That's 3. And let's see. Anything more? 2 3. No, I think that is it. So she walked. Oh wait, no, here's one. Okay, so we have 4. She worked 4 days. Walked 4 days. That's over 2 1/8 of a miles. What is the longest distance Miss Diaz walks? The longest she walks would be close to 3 holes, which would be 2 7/8. And then it says, on which days does Miss Diaz walk 2 3/8? So we got to figure out what days. So 2 3/8. Let's find that. Right here on day 9. And then on... and here's another one. So days 9 and 14. She walks 2 3/8 of a miles. Okay, now we have the data. We were able to answer questions by looking at the data. But sometimes the data is not organized in a way that we can look at it quickly and be able to answer questions, because all these mixed numbers and whole numbers and fractions, they're all over the place. They're not all grouped together. So what we have to do is create a line plot. And we already know what our number line is going to be broken up into. It's going to be broken up into 8s because that is what our fraction, our denominator, has in this data. So if we start placing things, let's place our, here is our 0, and then here is our 1, and then it goes up to, actually, you know what, let's make that a little further. Here's 1, and then here is, and then here is 2, and then here is, yeah, you know what, I'm not liking the way this is grouped. Sorry. This is going to be 1, and this is going to be 2, and then this will be 3. All right, so we got to cut it up into 8. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, now we can actually write this out. So here we have on this top one, and this 0 to 1, we have 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8, 5/8, 6/8, and then 7/8, and then that 1 would be 8/8. Then we have 1 1/8, 1 1/8, 1 2/8, 1 3/8. Let's zoom in there. 1 4/8, equivalent fraction, a half. 1 5/8, 1 and 6/8, and 1 and 7/8. And then 1 and 8/8 is just 2, which represents right there the 2 wholes. Now let's continue on. Now we have 2 and 1/8, 2 and 2/8, 2 and 3/8, 2 and 4/8. 4/8 equivalent to a half. 2 and 5/8, 2 and 6/8, 2 and 7/8, and then 3 8/8 would, 2 8/8 would be 3 wholes. All right, now we can start figuring out how much we have of each one. So I know that we didn't start at 1/8. I know the lowest we have is right here, 7/8. So let's put, and she only did that one time. If we look at all the other fractions, she only did it one time. So I'm going to cross out what we already used. So 7/8, she only did it once. Let's go to the next one. After 7/8, is there any 1 and 1/8? Nope, it just goes right to 1 and 3/8. So now I'm going to put in just one X, because she only did it one time, 1 and 3/8. The next one would be 1 and 5/8. How many times did she do that? If we count, she did it on day 11. Oh, and then she did it again on, so we got to cross these out. So 1 and 3/8 we got done. And then 1 and 5/8 we have 2 of those. So 1 and 5/8. So we got 2 of 1 at 5/8. Then 1 and 6/8. 1 and 2. So we got a tie there. Okay, and then now 1 and 7/8. Do we have 1 and 7/8? We do not. Do we have any 2s? Yes, we do. We have 2 wholes. So she's walked 2 miles. Then let's get rid of the 2. Now we're going 2 and 1/8. Yes, we do have 2 of those. Well, actually, no, we have 3. 1, 2, 3. So we have 2. We have 3 of 2 and 1/8. And then moving on, no 2 and 2/8. Nope. What about 2 and 3/8? Yes, we do. We have 1, 2. So we're going to put 1, 2. Then moving on. Then we go to 2 and 4/8. No, we don't. We have about 2 and 5/8. Yes, we do. We have 1 of those. So put that there. And then the last one we have left is 2 and 7/8. So there, we just took this data and plotted it all on our line plot, on this number line, to help organize our numbers. We could have not made a number line and just used the data, but see how many times we had to keep going back and count how many 1/6s and how many 7/8s and 1 and 7/8s do we have. This helps us just find the information really quick by just looking at the line plot, and then we can answer those questions. What is the most frequent distance Miss Diaz walks? The most frequent one that she did would be the one that has the most X's, and that would be 3. So it would be 2 and 1/8 is the most that she walked. How many miles does Miss Diaz walk on day 8? Well, the number line is not going to help me on there, but if I look over here, she did 1 and 5/8 miles. We should really make sure we're labeling. All right. Use the greater than, equal, less to compare the distance Miss Diaz walks on a day 6 and day 13. So we now can check over here. Day 6, she walked 2 and 7/8. And then day 13, she did 2, what is that? Hard to see. 2 and 5/8. So, oops, 2 and 5/8. So this is showing greater. Okay. What is the difference in miles between the longest and the shortest? So the longest was 2 and 7/8, and the shortest was 7/8. So 2 7/8 minus 7/8, well, that just gives us 2 wholes. So it's about 2 miles between the difference between the longest and the shortest. So again, great way of displaying the data so we can easily find the answer to these questions. Describe how line plots help us. Have a wonderful night.